Hello, and welcome to Dark Souls Randomizer, except every enemy is replaced with Gwyn. For the sake of brevity, I withheld some aspects of this challenge in the title, so the first part of this video will mostly be about explaining the rules of the run. The first aspect is that the enemy randomizer is used to turn all enemies in the game into Gwyn. This mod was already used on its own by a YouTuber named Challenger Andy, so I highly suggest you go and watch his video first. The second mod is the item randomizer, which takes all items in the game and shuffles them into random positions. It's rather self-explanatory. Locations of everything is unknown to me, whether it be keys, embers, weapons that deal actual damage, armor, or upgrade materials. Here's the options I selected. The main one I figured might need extra explanation is the race mode option for items to spawn in only specific spots. I'd mostly chose this for my own sanity, as I found looting every nook and cranny rather tedious when you combine it with the third mod. Speaking of, the third mod is the foggate randomizer. It takes all foggates and switches their inputs and their outputs with other foggates. This means progression is random throughout the world, and essential NPC locations can come at any point in the game. The base game of Dark Souls only has about 22 boss fogs and 14 normal fogs, but with all the options enabled in the foggate randomizer, it also includes PvP fogs that appear when someone invades you, and golden foggates that the Lord Vessel dispels when you place it down. This increases the count of foggates threefold, if not more. With that out of the way, all the basics are covered, so we can finally get into the game. Quick disclaimer. The first part of this video is actually recreated footage, since the original hour or so of game footage got corrupted. The only thing that really changes as a result is my skill level's a little bit higher, but I'm already an experienced Dark Souls 1 player, so not by much. Unfortunately, I was not able to have the starting equipment unrandomized, so I will not be playing with the same kneecap Andy had. Generally, when selecting from randomized starting classes, I tend to lean towards the one with the most utility rather than the most damaging weapon. Giant's Blacksmith Hammer is pretty damaging on the warrior class, but I would have 0 utility, and Gwyn is resistant to lightning anyway, so it would do less damage. The rest of the starting classes have basic bitch starting weapons like clubs, except the crystal ring shield, but that's a shield. So I was able to make my choice in utility rather easily. I went with Pyromancer mostly for the glove, since I figured it'd be more useful over the other casting tools, but unbeknownst to me, the wooden shield would be the most useful part of that loadout. I made my character a happy black man, grabbed the essential master key, and headed off to Lordran. I was a little disappointed in my experience in the asylum. I was really hoping that I'd have the same horrible experience Andy did there, requiring more than half a day for him to engineer a strategy. But unfortunately, the Foggate mod made it so the Gwyns, including the one that replaced the Asylum Demon, were unable to hop down to me. Much like Andy did throughout his run, I invoked the strategy of friendly fire, and I made the Gwyns up top kill the Asylum Gwyn. Another problem with the Foggate mod here is that it lets me level up at this bonfire. I would have liked to have been stuck at level 1 until I escaped like Andy, but it didn't really matter in the end due to the way the Foggate randomizer divides up the Asylum, so c'est la vie. I pick an equal amount of dex and strength to make sure I can wield any low-level weapons I run into, and some vitality and endurance to out-sprint and outlive some Gwyn attacks. Levels at this stage aren't too important, as I have no real idea what weapon I'm going to run into first. It's more about just not losing them to the void when I die over and over. I die rather embarrassingly to this first Gwyn despite saying I'm good, but after respawning and pairing him in a better position, I run past to grab all my essential items. And here's where I mean the not being able to level up thing would have mattered really little. Leaving the asylum is just a step away through the next foggate. Again, sucks I couldn't fight tooth and nail through the asylum like Andy, but what can you do? I doubt the foggate randomizer guy would edit his mod just for a challenge like this. I take a moment to stare as Gwyn's bright glow shines through the fog, then jump through. I'm whisked away to my first area. Tomb of the Giants. Usually, I despise this area, but luckily, Gwyn's bright glow turns it from absolute darkness to grossly incandescent, with some caveats. I sprint my ass as fast as I can to the first bonfire, and use the ladder method to save myself from the Gwyn that's beating my ass. I then use the gap method to make all the Gwyns fall down as they lunge across. After baiting out attacks and making them kill each other, I make the last Gwyn jump off the cliff. I sit at the bonfire and I invest my souls as fast as possible without brainlessly choosing stats. A nice spread of endurance, vitality, and strength means I'll be able to wield any useful weapon, and some magic stats to use some utility spells. About that caveat, While Gwyn's glow is useful, Dark Souls 1 has super aggressive area portals that prevent you from seeing Gwyn until he's in your ass, provided you're hugging an area portal. Eventually you get used to this and learn where to expect the white woman jump scare, but it's still an annoyance. Now for the battle plan of this run. Part of the reason I didn't bother getting the Giant's Blacksmith Hammer is even though it does good damage for a starting weapon, it still really isn't viable for fighting off the Gwyn hordes. Therefore, finding a weapon that has actual damage is the first and most important task coming into this run. As a result, looting all the items in each area is required. Something like the Black Knight Halberd is the ultimate end of this run, but finding one when every item is completely random is no easy feat. Armor is also useful, but secondary to a weapon. After doing the usual Gwyn fratricide technique, I decide to tackle the Patch's Kick Pit for items first. I drop down and sort through the items. A useless chunk, some hard humanity, a soul arrow spell, and Goth's helmet are all I get, none of which are particularly useful. If you're wondering about the aggressively T-posing Gwyns, this is what happens when an enemy replaces another enemy with a passive state like the Bone Towers. Since Gwyn has no idle animation, it defaults to the default T-pose. This does, however, mean taking Gwyn's Sacred Ring of Sacrifice gets my ass beat. I die horribly right afterwards. With that part of the catacombs looted, I move on to the next and most important part of TOTG. With the way the item randomizer is set up, the progression critical items are only to be placed in specific spots in each area. Most of them are critical item areas in the original game, like where an Ember would be, and some aren't, like the stone armor chest in Darkroot Garden. Since I mentioned the Ember by name, you should expect where I'm going next. Time to loot the Divine Ember Casket. Once the Gwyns had eliminated each other, I dashed for Andre's clone and I received the most essential item in this run. Yeah, it's some fucking wood bolts. I move on to looting the final items of this area before moving on to the next one. A soul of a hero and a Welshman's helmet, a princess skirt, a large tit shard, another ring of sacrifice, and lastly some more useless wood bolts. A pretty lame haul, but the risk was low anyways in an environment like this where Gwyns eliminate themselves, so it matches. After a short loading screen, we enter our new area, Royal Wood. Once you reach Royal Wood, the recreated footage is up to date with the most recent uncorrupted footage, so no more LARPing for me. You might notice a slight skill downgrade and a slight nerve downgrade. Here's me quitting the game and officially calling my run over at the time, since this recreation took place directly after I had beaten this run. And here we are, in nearly the exact same place, running to the protective comfort of this bridge. If you haven't already noticed, a lot of these open areas with pitfalls reuse the same spots and strategies Andes did, but I can tell you that will change once we get to areas where pitfalls are not an option. That's foreshadowing. I take to exploring the Royal Wood with the suicide of these final few Gwyns on this side of the bridge. However, there isn't much to see, and it's not long until I run into a group of Gwyns again. Being an uncreative man, I attempt to force my usual strategy of friendly fire in an area that makes it quite tedious. I spend 3 minutes trying to make the Gwyns face raping the wall attack each other, and I finally get down to one Gwyn. I resolve to jump down. Due to my excessive caution, I try to skirt the very edges of the cliff in an attempt to get as much distance as possible from the singular Gwyn. This, of course, backfires in my face since going anywhere near a Dark Souls 1 slope is a mistake. I slide off and Alt F4 to save myself. After loading back in and seeing Gwyns slow walking all around me, I decide to throw caution to the wall and sprint to God knows where before they clog up and make an impassable Gwyn wall in the small valley up ahead. Calamite jumps down and staggers me, which is an ass-clenching moment, but I manage to keep out of the Gwyns trailing me's range. I move up ahead, and the depth of the shit I'm in really starts to show here. Gwyns are converging and falling all around me, and I'm trying my hardest to find any sort of pitfall or safe spot away from them. And back to square zero. Fucking A. I built a tolerance for this kind of tedious shit later into the run, but at this time it was an aggravating loss of progress that made me Alt F4 and try again later. Here's later. Without looting items, the travel time to the Royal Wood isn't too long, but making all the Gwyns kill themselves is always such a terribly monotonous task. After waiting for myself to go through male menopause, I finally get my ass to my massive pile of souls. And like a fucking retard, I walk right into the same damn hole. That's when I decide to take a break from Dark Souls for the day. With a well-rested brain and a less frustrated mind, I boot up Dark Souls the following morning and I work my way back to the Royal Wood. It's just more the same through the Tomb of the Giants, so no sense of including it. With the Gwyns terminated near the bridge, I decide to uncork my Dark Souls 1 knowledge and not to bother with all the items on the left side of the map yet. You see, Dark Souls Remastered did a lot of stuff I like, even if it didn't do a lot of the stuff the community wanted. One of these, ironically, is a glitch, known as the meme roll. When your carry weight is between a certain value of mid-roll, you can spam roll over and over in the air and not take damage when you hit the ground, as long as you don't run out of stamina. This was possible in Prepare to Die edition, but in that version you had a very, very, very small margin of carry weight error that basically required preset item combinations, which I didn't have access to. But in Dark Souls Remastered, the margin of error was increased to 4.1%, which is easy to get with a few sets of armor. Slapping on the Welshman's helm from earlier, and checking to see if my value is within the valid range, I meme roll my ass down the elevator, therefore bypassing that whole hell I would have otherwise had to go through if I wanted to progress. I send the elevator up ASAP, and talk to Mr. Bloodborne himself to see what he offers. Vendors are an essential part of item randomizer runs, as they are the only real way to obtain upgrade materials. Looting/enemy drops are not really viable if you want to get a +5 twink weapon or anything to +15. Luckily, not only does Chester the Otter have Titanite shards, he's also got Twinkling Titanite. I also buy some Homeward Bones because you'll never know when you need them, and I've got a bajillion souls anyways. I do this as quickly as possible, as in the background you can see that ever-present orange glow getting closer from the Calamite Valley Gwyns. Once they get close enough, I close the dialog box, and then bait them into the bottomless pit of the elevator. With a hub established, it is now time for another loot compilation, since I can approach the other side of the Royal Wood with much more helpful pitfalls. Chester's long coat is 50 meters from Chester himself, Eastern armor behind the second elevator, my 5 million souls next, followed directly by the Demon's Great Axe and Twin Humanities. After that, a standard helm overlooks the canyon, a partisan overlooks Calamite, and the ambush Gwyn item is a cleric helm with blooming moss clumps. Besides my massive amount of souls, the most useful item there is the Demon Great Axe, assuming I can find a blacksmith in both embers to get it to +15. However, at the moment, unupgraded, it's not any more useful than the other ones I have, as it's heavy as fuck and it doesn't really do that much more damage. Might come in handy later though. Oh, also, I forgot to mention I picked up some arrows in the valley. It's now where our first real choice of progression begins. You see, there's 3 different foggates from the foggate randomizer here. There's the Calamite boss fog, the Artorias boss fog, and the Mega Abyss elevator fog. It's for this purpose that you must create a map for this run. It's not an option really. If you don't make a map, you will be absolutely screwed later into the run when you have no idea where you've been and haven't been, and no idea how to navigate the map quickly. When I was playing this, I made a hand-drawn, very ugly map, but for this video I will make a pretty Photoshop map for you guys. Here's our options. At the time, I elected to go to Calamite boss fog first, because I figured with all the Gwyns cleared out, it'd be easy, and I don't want to sit through that again when I could easily rush the other 2 foggates without waiting for the Gwyns to kill themselves. And we arrive in the Great Hollow. Not bad. There's a bonfire up ahead and a lot of items to loot, and the area itself makes it easy to avoid Gwyns. First up, obviously, is to dump all these souls I grabbed. Some more endurance, some vit, bloat maxing my magic stats and evening out my dice with my strength, My character is just a little bit stronger, able to wear a little bit more shit, and wield a little bit more spells. Since nothing really interesting happened in the Great Hollow, I'll give you a loot compilation. Enchanted Falchion from the Chloranthy Ring spot, Tin Banishment Crystal, Divine Blessing, a blue chunk from a lizard, an indictment and a red Titanite chunk, a Hello Carving, purple moss clump, and at the halfway point I finally get my first real weapon, the Giant's Halberd. Great news, because while Gwyn is pretty resistant to lightning, the Giant's Halberd does the most damage of anything we've found in this run, while also sporting good range for poking from safety. Upgrading with Twink is also better than upgrading with normal materials because it's way easier to come across Twink necessary for a +5 than the upgrade materials and Embers for a +15 of any type of infusion. As for the rest of the Great Hollow, Gwyns did not follow their deaths here, so I actually did have to prepare for the worst on my way down. I grab the short sword from the first falling spot, and take a bit to see who's still up above. It appears that there's at least one Gwyn, and even if he is too mentally challenged to navigate the terrain while I'm above him, this is kinda bad. The reason is that there's one item below this platform that has to be fallen on from this platform. It's a real pain to line up as well, especially if you don't know exactly where to land. I drop down from above and do some ring around the rosy dance with Gwyn until I reach the next highest item vertically. This pisses off Gwyn, and he flies across the map to protect his soul of Gwendolyn and his giant's gauntlets, only to be saved from damage by him animation canceling because he landed on a ledge. Guess he wanted that bussy all from himself. I get him stuck on a branch and spent like a minute trying to find the proper place to fall down and receive a Pyromancy Flame and Baldur's Leggings. While Pyromancer's Flame is pretty useless for me since I already have one, but armor options are never really bad. So my quest down continues. I try to scope out a way to one of the items on the mushrooms, and once I path onto one, the Gwyns all find a valid path to me and begin doing the usual horde jump spam. I go back up and grab my mushroom item, receiving White Dragon Breath. Well, since I have unlimited stats and a banishment catalyst I got earlier, this could actually be useful. I did some more Gwyn manipulation for friendly fire until I think I've cleared enough. I drop down and take some fall damage while I sprint away from Gwyn's hot on my tail, and we add another area to my map. Undead perish from the ladder fog, a double-edged sword. While it's infinitely safer than something like the blacksmith or elevator PvP fogs, this fog does not allow me any opportunity to sprint past the Gwyns due to the way the Gwyns pop in from other sections of the parish. So, I gotta kill all the Gwyns to progress. And with no easy fall damage pit, this actually requires some of my attention. Also, in addition to the other map which shows overall progression of the world, I'm gonna make a new individual one for the Undead Parish, since it has so many places in and out. There's a few areas like this in the game, but we'll tackle those when we get there. Since it's more the same, I'll super speed up this section too. It's basically just 5 minutes of me sitting on the ladder until Gwyns kill each other, then killing the single Gwyn left by hiding in the pit where he can't hit me, and then baiting more Gwyns from outside. Eventually, I whittle them all down and exit to the glorious outside. I go up the stairs to loot the church. Yeah, no. I already cleared out the ladder room and spent my whole life doing that. If those Gwyns want to stay down there on their side of the map, I'm leaving them there. Anyways, I get a green blossom and that's apparently the only item reachable in the area. How disappointing. It's here where I resolved to go down underneath the bridge. My thought process was that there's only a couple down there compared to the church, and I should be able to make them suicide off the cliff. Plus, I get access to another suicidal bonfire, and 2 extra fog gates if I can get there. Some more ladder waiting, and a top off for the old humanity, and I decide to hop down. Unfortunately, I had not accounted for Gwyn's newfound training as a linebacker, and I fall off the cliff when he body blocks me. Fucking great. 30 minutes down the drain. I spend about the same amount of time getting back to the exact same spot, except this time Gwyn jumps out of the spot he was stuck before. I also managed to squeeze around the second Gwyn with some careful pathfinding, but I make a fatal mistake. The scary orange light scares me away and leads me to heal in a less than perfect spot, letting Gwyn poke me off the cliff. I try to do the old Alt F4, but the game punishes me by putting me in an even more inconvenient spot back below the ladder, and I die. After that frustrating setback, I decide to rearrange my strategy and go to another part of the map. Going back to the Artorias area, I first go through the Artorias boss fog and find that it's the Darkroot Garden. This is convenient because the bonfire is right there, and I can use it as the base of the operations for the time being. Then, I go to see what's on the other side of the giant elevator shaft in the Royal Wood, which is the painted world of Ariamis. Since this is a late game area, and I used a late game bias in the item randomizer, I decided that throwing myself at the wall here would be a good use of my time.
She's coming.
Overall, nothing got accomplished yet again for like 30 minutes of gameplay, but I did manage to get a couple semi-interesting items, those being the Sorcery Catalyst plus Heavy Soul Arrow, and Paladin Leggings plus Great Combustion. More spells is always good, and heavy armor is never bad. Yet again, I'm going to change my strategy and go through the Darkroot Garden instead, since I can actually kill Gwyns via cliffs, and I don't have to deal with a giant horde of Gwyns whenever I enter. Also, Darkroot Garden is another massive area like the Undead Parish, so there's a ton of options to choose from for foggates. Here's the full list of areas you can reach without ever passing through a foggate. As you can see, it's pretty insane. Of course, Lower Undead Burg is unreachable to us at this moment since we don't have the shortcut gate open. However, if I really want to, I can do the skip. I avoid doing this in general in foggate runs because it delinearizes the map while the randomizer randomizes on a linear progression. Anyways, back to gameplay. I meander my way through Darkroot Garden, picking up items such as the Skull Lantern, Cast Light, and Rubbish before I dive through the Taurus Demon Foggate and find myself in a familiar place. Except this time, I have no way of hiding while the Gwyns murder each other, and I die right after. Well, that's essentially a dead end. There's no real way to outrun a horde of Gwyns that large and spread out reliably, so I'm just gonna go find another foggate. We'll go check Andre's. And behind this door is... Nope. The Abyss is a fucking nightmare, and I am not checking that section unless it's the absolute last area that I have to go through to find the essential items. Okay, next up is the Underside Foggate to Valley of Drakes, and we get... the dead-end side of the rafters of Anor Londo. Well, that's rather useless for traveling into, but it may be useful later for traversing the world, since Anor Londo is a big hub area of fog gates. I die to the Gwyn on the other side, but since chests tend to be essential item spots, I resolve to come right back. Not like it's too difficult to make it down to the Valley of Drake's fog. And for my efforts, I receive the Harkdan, which is useless since my starting class had one. After that, I decide to suicide into the first item in the basin, and I receive the Katarina armor. Nice. For fun, I decide to go back to the tower basement and kill Havel. He rarely ever has anything good in item randomizer runs, so it's more just to see his ridiculous outfit and how much it trivializes him since he no longer has Gigapoise. Then, it's 10 minutes of baiting Gwyns to this staircase and poking them in their shins since they're too tall to get to me. I then venture out and observe my surroundings. Seeing that Gwyns sitting in the guard tower really scares me, so I decide to go down and loot the blue tearstone ring spot first. I grab it, and then all the Gwyns above start jumping down for me in their usual way, so I sit here thinking that it's a good way to deal with the next area of Gwyns. This goes well until one Gwyn actually makes the jump, and when I try to run away, his buddies jump me at the other side. Great. A frustrating death for sure, but unlike the Undead Parish, I can actually whittle down the Gwyns rather easily without having to deal with ladders for immunity or tons of blind load zones for Gwyns. Before starting the grind through the Burg though, I want to make sure to check all the easy places first. You might be thinking, what else is left in this area besides the Hydra ladder, which is going to be just as bad if not worse? Well, you can actually fall down to the second area of Darkroot Garden just by jumping off this cliff here. Pretty useful, and with a bit of luck you won't die instantly to Gwyns. I checked the wolf ring item first, receiving 2 dresses on 1 corpse, and then dying. After that, I checked the backside of the ambush fog, and find my first piece of world progression, the second Bell of Awakening. I don't know where Sen's Gate is, since it has its own fog gate outside the parish, but progression's progression. I make the same mistake Andy did in his playthrough in regards to the Firekeeper down here, sitting at it after Ainge tries to murder her. This does mean I'm kinda stuck for a second, but a few thwacks to Oogway's ass and he's out of my way. Hopefully this has no repercussions later. The next foggate in my linear path leads to the bonfire room of the Upper Burg. Seeing as the fog gate prevents the Gwyns from ripping my spleen out, this is actually a rather nice place of respite to spend my souls at. Another step down the line, and we're in Seath's room. I grab the chest item, which is the Archive Tower Giant Cell Key. This could be very important since the randomizer loves to put progression items behind that cell on hard bias since it's a late game area and requires a ton of progression items and world flags to get to. The Foggate Randomizer mod adds the crystal shit that makes you double immortal here, and I travel to my next area, which is the Sanctuary Guardian spawn of the DLC. A straight line, basically. Okay, I guess. And after that, it sends me to the worst entrance I can get to the Upper Burg. Okay, so another dead end. That's actually a good thing in this case. A dead branch from my base of operations means I can check another one and slowly eliminate sections I have to check. I make my travel all the way back to the bottom of Darkroot Garden and find that the Moonlight Butterfly boss fog leads to the lava area of Lost Isolate, a dead end for now. It gives a nice soul injection though, with all the Gwyns stuck in the lava, and being able to sit at the bonfire means the next section won't be as bad. Still gonna be agonizing though. I have to loot all the items in the lower Darkroot Garden areas and make it back to the top part via the Wolf Ring spot. A tall task with that many Gwyns stuck in tight spaces. The Poison Tree Snake item is a copper coin, and the Frog item is some black leather armor. A complete waste of time. Eventually though, I make it back to the sweet refuge of the Illusionary Wall bonfire. And so, it's finally time to bite the pillow and commit to grinding one hub type area for a bit, since I have no other good options. I kill all the Gwyns stopping me from entering the Burg again, and then die again. The next try though, I actually managed to break into the Burg without dying and start looting some items. The Pine Resin chest is the Sunlight Shield and Lingering Dragon Crest ring, some modestly useful items, while the Firebomb corpse is Smo's armor and some tattered cloth. Heavy armor is never bad, as I said earlier. Now, I have to fight my way to the next area of Gwyns. I help the Gwyn that kicks down the door get rid of his paralysis, then throw a bunch of fire in his face. I apply more Giant's Halberd to Gwyn's shins until I finally clear out another section and go down below to try and bait the Gwyn that's stuck behind the door. This goes horribly wrong when a different Gwyn jumps down and lands it, getting a hit on me and nearly killing me. I bait him to the usual spot, and after I kill him, I clear out some more of the Burg. I pick up the Hornet Ring from this chest, emit force from this corpse, and then spend a shit ton of time baiting Gwyns around and then sprinting to the Undead Merchant to buy his shit. I really didn't get anything good besides some consumables. I suppose the Crystal Ember could be useful, but I highly doubt it. Eventually though, I commit to hopping through a fog gate and I go with the Hellkite Dragon Ambush exit. And we get Firelink Shrine. Oh yeah baby. Time for another loot compilation. While making the Gwyns of the shrine commit suicide, I get black leather boots and heal, a chunk from Petrus, some humanity shards and rings from Petrus as well, iron round shield, Goth's gauntlets, warrior's round shield, crimson gloves, gold coin, bequeath lord soul shard, key to the seal, more titanite shards, even more titanite shards, falchion, priest hat and flash sweat, magic shield and mushroom, crimson waistcloth, dried finger, crystal magic weapon and humanity, and finally, the old witch's ring. Wow though, a bequeathed Lord Soul Shard and key to the seal. One required and one probably required item. Gotta love all the loot and Firelink with the item randomizer mod. I go down to the catacombs and hop through that fog gate to find that we've got ourselves an Ouroboros here. It goes right from Firelink area to the Firelink area, except now you're stuck in the aqueduct with a Gwyn, and my damage is not high enough to survive this. There is technically one non-required item behind him, but I'll come back to here later once my damage is higher and I can properly duel Gwyns. I decide to go back to the New Londo elevator to loot more of the Undead Burg, since there's a number of fog gates to jump through that I haven't yet. Here's a good place to cover one of the issues that has been semi-common in this run, but I haven't covered yet. You see, there's this big issue with Gwyn and crashing my fucking game. Up to this point, it's been mostly random, but not too impairing, but it's at this point in the run that it actually creates a big roadblock.
See, whenever a bunch of Gwyns attack at once, it seems to do something that crashes your game. Usually, this isn't a big problem since in a natural environment, Gwyns aren't going to all attack at the same time with the same attack and hit each other. However, this is not true when you go through a fog gate. When you spawn in, all Gwyns attack at the same time with the same attack, instantly crashing your game. This was happening earlier in the Painted World of Ariamis, but unlike here, you could get lucky pretty frequently. I'm talking about this mostly because it's this predicament that forced me to download Cheat Engine. The only reliable way I found to overcome this post-loading screen crash was to turn on disabled AI using Cheat Engine, then move to a spot where all the Gwyns won't instantly hit each other at once, and then enable the AI again. A big note here is that this is not present in Prepare to Die edition from what I can tell, so I think it's something to do with Dark Souls Remastered's massive rework of particles. No idea though, that's just a guess. Back at the gameplay, I spent a long while spamming white dragon breath at the horde of Gwyns that clogged up on the stairs, and then I killed the last one with my halberd. With all those Gwyns dead, I have a lot more freedom to exist down here than I did coming from the other side, just due to the way they clog up. Since all the Gwyns down below the bridge next to the ladder were attacking each other as well, I'm able to shop at the merchant in peace after I killed the lone survivor. I buy all the merchant's armor, kill the lone survivor Gwyn, then buy all the arrows I can hold, some consumables, and the speckled stone plate ring. I grab a buckler and a talisman from up on the roof, elite knight leggings and Artorias helm, Chester's gloves, something I already have but can only hold one of, a bunch of humanity, and the one, the only, the Black Knight fucking halberd. Yeah, baby. We're about to go from level 1 cook to level 50 boss. Disclaimer here, please excuse the change in microphone quality going forward. I burnt out on this project 2 years ago and I'm finally coming back to it now. The room I'm recording in is much different than when I started this project. With that said, next up we go through the front side of the Hellkite ambush foggate. We already know where those stairs go. We end up in the Painted World of Ariamis, on the other side of where we were entering earlier. This is a much better entrance to the Painted World of Ariamis than the first one, and it's very accessible from our bonfire. Picking the path of least resistance, I run up the stairs and start towards the Priscilla Fog Gate while picking up items along the way. I get a Titanite slab, cleric armor, a large tit shard, and then arrive at the Fog Gate while almost dying to the Gwyns chasing me. The far side leads us to the Anorlando Greatbow drop-down fog. Pretty good place to end up. There's at least a couple fog gates I think I could run to before the Gwyns kill me. I check the path to the giant blacksmith first and find myself outside the boss fog to the Gaping Dragon. Since I'm not ready to bash my head against the wall that is the depths yet, I run back to the fog and go back to Anorlando. Now that we're here, this is a good time to show off the hub type map for this area. Additionally, to show our progress from world start, here's what our path would look like if we were to start from square one at the asylum. After finding that the corpse next to the fog gate we came through has another item we can only hold one of, we jump to the fog gate that goes to the bedrooms of Anorlando. We find ourselves in Blighttown. This is another hub type area, so I will make another hub type map. This is part of why keeping a good map makes or breaks these runs. If you don't have a good way of tracking where you've been and what's interlinked, you'll easily get stuck in a loop because of these hub type areas. I wait a bit for the Gwyns to kill each other below the ladder, and then I start progressing towards the depths entrance. This is to exhaust the direction I know has no fog gates of loot, since you can't go through the Blighttown door backwards. I get a few things handed to me on the way. Strong Magic Shield, Effigy Shield, Heavy Soul Arrow, Mass Suicides, Pendant, Unpickupable Item, and finally, my ass. Well, I don't really feel like running back there at the moment, so I'll just go back and eliminate more options from the Berg hub area instead. I crash a bunch, kill the Gwyns, and then I go and check the ladder room entrance fog. Bed of Chaos. Nice. Should be a good opportunity to try and get an essential item with all the biases presents for the late game. After sliding down the slip and slide, I fumble it completely and die to the single Gwyn. What an embarrassing death. Apparently, since I'm a shitter and I need it, I upgrade my wooden shield to the higher fire resist sunlight shield. Taking attempt number 2 at this singular Gwyn, I actually kill him this time, and I get the giant's helm and the very large ember as a reward. I can't imagine ever needing the very large ember given my current weapon, but the giant's helm could be useful.
Additionally, it is very satisfying to be able to mark another fog gate as a dead end. Now that I'm back at the bonfire with an inventory full of souls, I spend a few on leveling up attunement. Then, I go and fill my spell slots. Crystal Dragon Breath, Great Magic Shield, Repair, Wrath of the Gods, and Heavy Soul Arrow. Well, time to make my way to the painted world of Ariamis and get to looting. I get a coin, broadsword, notched whip, and Smo's helm at the top of the tower. Pendant and giant armor, a mace, white titanite slab, gauntlets of favor, demon titanite, ring of sacrifice, and washing pole, and then I get instant death when I tried to run past this room full of Gwyns. Oh well, I'll just reorient myself and go see if there's any other paths that have less resistance than Painted World of Ariamis. First, I'll go and check on the ONS fog. The Gwyns like to uselessly jump off this staircase over and over, so I wait for the right moment and then sprint towards the door lever as a quick detour just to try and get some progression out of this run. I manage to open it, and then right after, I sprint to the ONS fog, and it outputs me at the Gwendolyn boss fight fog gate. Well, I guess I may as well join and see what the reward is for joining the Dark Moons. A dingy hood. Man, I have done a lot of these randomizer runs, and I don't think I've ever gotten anything worth a damn from these Covenant leaders. I head back through the fog, since the statue can't be dispelled from this side, and make an attempt to run towards the big door. I get got when the Gwyn interferes with a man's Sunny D session. Well, another death, another reorientation. Depths time. Jumping through the Burg and the Painted World of Ariamis, we output at the Gaping Dragon entrance and start our way up the depths. After many minutes of killing Gwyns at this hallway constriction, I run towards the bonfire shortcut hallway. There is only one active Gwyn guarding my path to the bonfire, so I kill him and set my respawn position to this single exit bonfire. This would come to prove a mistake. I've been cutting out a lot of the grindy parts now that I've gotten to the point that it's pretty banal to show, but I think now is an important portion to show just how much time is wasted to make attempts at looting items. Baiting Gwyns to become active and running to my hidey hole to kill them is something that gets old very quick. But it's the name of the game in this run, and this is going to be the status quo for a long time. Making it through the Gwyn wall, we start edging our way into the large ember area. I grab the slime trap item, which is a copper coin, and sprint towards my homie Laurentius. Although his fashion sense is god-awful, he is a very useful NPC, since he can upgrade our glove once he escapes this hellhole somehow. He'll also have some items to sell in his shop when we get back to Firelink. Unfortunately, it seems the Gwyns that replaced the water dogs kept their traits regarding passivity until you jump into the water. This is going to suck some major ass, especially given that the likelihood of even more Gwyns waiting for me on the other side is quite high. Taking a moment to compose myself and clench my ass cheeks, I jump in and run past all the Gwyns in my personal mosh pit. I just barely make it by the skin of my ass cheeks that I mentioned earlier. I now take another moment to calm down after that close encounter, and I scope out the spider shield room while grabbing the spider shield item. It's some more armor that I'll probably never get any use out of. I try to make this single Gwyn in this room die to the Gwyns on the other side of the prison bars, but unfortunately I have no such luck as he is the lone survivor in the bout. Being an idiot, I decide rather than fight one Gwyn, it's probably a much better idea to go and slide down the slide to that area full of Gwyns that has not been cleared since I sat at the bonfire. Of course, the reward I receive is death afterwards, but sometimes I question whether I have a brain at all. Well, since I'm starting back at the bonfire and not really in the mood to play Jack and the Gwyn again with all the slime replacements, I'll just go the other direction in the depths. The usual Gwyn genocide happens at this door. The last one dies, and I move in, receiving black firebombs and cleric leggings, and up ahead there's another duplicate item, a hidden jump scare Gwyn, and a thief mask. I decide rather than trying to kill a single Gwyn in the tight space hallway to go through the fog gate up ahead. No, not viable. Going back in, of course, respawns all the Gwyns I had previously killed, which actually gives me an opportunity to kill the Gwyns that would otherwise be too close for comfort with friendly fire. I try to push ahead after clearing the path, but an additional Gwyn sprints down the tight hallway. I make an attempt to use my big brain on this Gwyn, but his AI is too smart and he pats around the hole. I retreat back to my hallway, and luckily there's another Gwyn from up above that activated, so I can make more friendly fire happen. Another expedition downward, and it appears clear. I get to the fall down trap that I tried to use earlier, and I attempt to jump over, but I keep my shield up, which prevents you from jumping. I fall down right into the lap of Uncle Gwyn, and he gives me the bad touch. While it is most definitely a skill issue to hold block while trying to jump in Dark Souls 1, it really makes me appreciate how Elden Ring added a dedicated jump button. There hasn't really been enough humor in the second half of this video, so here's a quick clip of the Gwyn animation glitching out. I'll just try going down deeper into the depths instead. Now check out this sequence for an example of what a whole lot of luck looks like. First, I have a Gwyn jump right through me and cut off my exit by body blocking me in this tight hallway. But then, the Gwyn behind me manages to grab me and propels me through the other Gwyn, and I just barely make it to the ladder before one of them kills me with 1 HP. Then, while trying to make the Gwyns below me kill each other, one manages to randomly upward through the metal grate and nearly kills me again, only just barely not killing me because I managed to roll, and his AI is too stupid to try and fall down the same hole I did. Wow. Down in the lower depths, I link up with Dom Hall of Zena. He has a few consumables that I may as well stock up on, like black fire bombs and arrows, but otherwise there's not really anything of note. From here onwards, the pillaging of the depths is actually a cinch. A large majority of the Gwyns in the upper and the lower area had actually killed each other when we were in the metal grate room, so the only few left are in otherwise choke-pointed areas where friendly fire can be easily invoked to deal with them. As such, a loot compilation for the rest of the items in the depths is fitting. In this order, I retrieve my souls from when I died earlier, black iron armor, dingy gloves, homing crystal soul mass and thunderstone plate ring, black knight shield and boots of the explorer, brass gauntlets and great soul arrow, bastard sword and white titanite chunk, and 3 humanities. And that's most of the depths looted. However, there is still some items in the kitchen section up above. The biggest one being whatever replaced the large ember in the chest, since with my randomizer settings it could potentially be a key item. I decide, rather than sit at the bonfire and kill all those Gwyns again, it's a better idea to equip the Ring of Sacrifice and make an attempt at opening the chest. I take my time walking through the area trying to get a bead on the situation, but then I see a Gwyn jump down where I didn't expect him and another take a lunge at me, and I decide to take a chance and run to the chest outright. This backfires immediately, and the Gwyn at the top of the stairs knocks me down into the water with the rest of the Gwyns, and they beat me to death. At this point, I had had enough steps for a long time, and I decided if there really was any essential items in this area, I'd just come back to it later. Time to return to the asylum. It's somewhat of a pain in the ass to retrace my steps starting from the asylum, but it is just a repeat of everything from the first half of the video, but a little bit faster. No need to extend this quite long video any longer, so I'll just skip ahead. Long story short, I run through Tomb of the Giants, Royal Wood, Darkroot Garden, and then back to Firelink. And I go ahead and check out Laurentius's shop. It's all shit. I do get to upgrade my Pyromancy Flame to plus 15 though. Then, I get to the Undead Burg, Painted World of Ariamis, and back to Blighttown. First things first, let's check out the fog gate closest to us, the one directly on the other side of the fog gate we came in through. There's a corpse on the way, so we get the Ivory Talisman and the Great Heavy Soul Arrow spell. Precariously standing on this plank allows me to clear the Gwyns from the area below, and after they're dead, I jump to the fog gate. This outputs us at the Demon Centipede entrance. Interesting, and a little bit concerning. I sprint up the routes and wait for a bit at the most advantageous spot, but it seems as though the Gwyns are not being loaded in yet. I should be safe for now, so I grab the item below the roots, which is a dragon scale. I proceed forward, and after I light the bonfire, I see the incandescent glow of Gwyn creep around the corner, so I sprint to the most advantageous spot and wait. A quick testing of the theory of gravity shows that Gwyn can die from heights alone, and does not need a kill box. Proceeding forward, after the cleansing of the Gwyns, the exit of the Demon Fire Sage boss fog leads to the Duke's Archives hallway. This area is always kind of scary in a normal randomizer run. It's a good thing I'm well equipped to deal with Parry My Ass and Gwen is stairs and width disabled. the ugly-ass crystalline knight and the crystal wizard get dealt with, and it's through another foggate. The Nito boss fight. It's a good thing skeletons do not get replaced by Gwyn, or this would be an impossibility. I compose myself, suit up, brace my kneecaps, and drop down. My strategy here consists of thinking of the skeletons as mosquitoes and poising through their attacks while focusing on Gwyn and assuming their damage is low enough to chug through when possible. This strategy, unfortunately, was not a winning one, and I fuck up my parries and eventually die when my fat ass can't get off the ground fast enough. Doing as someone with an ADHD brain would, I say I'll revisit Nito's replacement later and look for a path of less resistance. The foggate that goes to the second Bell of Awakening shortcut is the next thing to check, and it outputs to the Crystal Caves. The time it takes for each Gwyn to commute to the cheese ladder and the range at which they aggro in this grotto area is quite annoying, but I eventually get them dealt with and move forward to the Crystal Cave itself. Also, I get a Titanite slab and the Bellowing Dragoncrest ring from the grotto area. Not much to say here. This is sort of a problem that deals with itself, with all the different ways Gwyns can fall off. There's more than a few wizards here that give me some nice Titanite chunks, though. However, once past the center atrium, the Gwyns that replace the clams are quite imposing. It takes a bit of effort to sprint back every time and not die to the rather limited aggro range inside the cave. Once we've dealt with the Gwyns that aggro easily, we sprint past the stragglers and go through the Seath entrance fog and into the Undead Parish Gargoyles entrance. This is a fucking great place to have access to, even if there is an innumerable amount of Gwyns that we must deal with. There's at least 3 foggates that we have access to from this position. However, we have to make sure we do pick the best one, since coming back through it into the parish is going to be an instant death. After a while of chipping away at Gwyns, I make a run for the barrel corpse next to Lautrec, obtaining the Demon Great Hammer, and then I free him while I'm there. On my way back to the ladder, I run into Gwyns trickling up from the downstairs and make an executive decision to risk it for the biscuit. I make a mad dash for the left elevator foggate and hop through. This outputs me at the Gwyndolin boss fight. Although it is a singular Gwyn, and should be relatively easy for that reason, I have no Estus and must use humanity when I do fuck up. I top myself off while he edgewalks and get to parrying, luckily not floundering too bad and taking the win. Gwyn happens to drop something I can't carry, and the chest gives me the Chaos Flame Ember and Moonlight Robe, Demon King Great Axe, and the Undead Asylum F2 West Key, plus the Demon Machete. I've come to find that the randomizer loves to put crucial items where the Iron Rusted Ring is, so that's high on my list of places to check. Anyways, I make an attempt to run straight out of the gate and to the Andre Fogg gate, but my ankles get grabbed not far from said gate. That sucks, but I am not in the mood to do the sheer amount of waiting required to get back to the parish again, so it's back to Blighttown for me. I go back through the Demon Centipede fog and inch forward to grab this item, the Velka's Rapier, before I batten down the hatches and get ready for the long grind through the Gwyns inside the Blighttown swamp. This is an ideal, but simultaneously annoying position in Blighttown for progressing. Clearing the sheer amount of Gwyns out of this area is a massive pain in the ass, since there is no efficient way to force them to hit each other without them falling off constantly and having to run back to this specific ladder. But you do manage to aggro a lot of them in the lower area at once, so it's just a waiting game. A very, very long waiting game, as you can see from this footage, which is sped up so fast that Adobe hates every second of interacting with it. It doesn't help that the mosquito spawner Gwyns exist. Although they aren't infinite, my understanding is that they only spawn another Gwyn when the first Gwyn that specific spawner spawned dies, so it slows down the Gwyn crunching rate at a decent amount. After sitting for a while and seeing that I had gotten most of the Gwyns killed that I could at this specific spot, I take a bit of a risk and make a sprint to the Dragon Scale chest area, which I believed would give me a safe spot that was better at allowing me to attack the Highlander Gwyn and bait additional Gwyns to me. There's some humanities in the chest when I get there. Unfortunately, this spot is not as good as I thought it would be at killing straggler Gwyns, due to them still being able to dodge consistently. I test a few different ways of forcing them to kill each other or die to me, but none of my spells can hit them without them dodging. Black fire bombs only have about a 50% success rate, and sitting at this position below the lip just makes them dodge the carving for some reason. Eventually though, they all get dealt with in probably the least efficient use of consumables ever seen. Also, for some reason, this one falls through the world. Seeing as my last couple risks have paid off, I decide to take another one and sprint to the next station, and just barely manage to make it up the ladder without dying. I then go up the elevator and start looting the shortcut access area of Blighttown. Brown pine resin in the shortcut key chest, Gwyn flying out of an ass crack, Ricard's rapier and Ulusil ivory catalyst, liquid Gwyn crash substitute, Firekeeper's soul, witch's cloak and divine blessing, and that's about all of it up here. Since it doesn't seem like I can move through the sewer area here without crashing, it looks like I can't loot that item down there, and I'll have to just move on. Coming from this side, the next best place to get Gwyns killed is right here at the bottom of the elevator, which also happens to have the same problems as the first spot, where they love to fall off and have to run back, which reduces friendly fire damage output. After even more waiting in the Blighttown swamp, enough Gwyns died that I venture into the swamp, where I grab the Mask of Elka, the Wanderer boots, and the leather gloves. I was going to run through the entirety of the swamp and see what items I could get, but unfortunately, distant sprinting Gwyns pushed me towards Quelaag's domain. There's always another opportunity to loot this hellhole if I really have to. Jumping through the Quelaag fog puts me in the Demon Ruins, and I set my spawn position here and dump all my levels into Faith, Attunement, and Endurance. I then attune Soothing Sunlight in my new spell slot for more healing, and switch out Repair for Great Combustion after casting it once, just in case. I jump down below and head to the Ceaseless Discharge's boss entrance, which leads to the Blue Oyster Cult's entrance, right in front of that one random NPC and a million Gwyns closing in. I get to the chest nearby before dying, and it's a Guardian Soul. The Rare Ring of Sacrifice preserves my humanity, so I become human and kindle the bonfire, since it's either that or it goes down the drain. It also helps me have more supplies for healing after doing the lava skip, which I am going to attempt. It's only logical after all. My 2 foggates accessible from here are both instant death to Gwyns when I hop through them, so it's either that or back to the asylum. I make numerous attempts at the lava skip, but I finally give in to my frustration and give up on it. I make a single attempt at going backwards through the Blighttown foggate, which goes about as well as you would think. I also make a single attempt at looting Lost Izalith, which only yields a single Dragon Slayer Great Arrow before I get my ass beat by the Horde. Well shit. Time to click my heels 3 times. Asylum, Tomb of the Giants, Royal Wood, Great Hollow, Undead Parish. Clear out the glens, chain armor's here. Let's go back to the Rat Underpass and loot where we failed before. I played a bit smarter and managed to make it to this chamber here underneath the bridge. Once we kill the Gwyns, we can now access the Hellkite Dragon bridge items. They are Something I Can't Pick Up, Orange Soapstone, and Purging Stones. I open the shortcut here, but I don't sit at the bonfire for fear of a soft lock. It'd be going back 2 steps from the Great Hollow back to the Asylum if I have to dip out. I say hi to Solaire and his Soapstone as well, because why not, I guess. Can't go do a playthrough without talking to him, even if you don't want to do co-op. Going through the fog gate in the bridge chamber puts us in this weird connection area after Taurus that has the spider shield as its item. The other side of the weird connection outputs to the catacombs, which is hell, so I dip out instantly and go back to the Hellkite Bridge. Well, let's go check out the fog gate near Solaire then. It outputs me in the Firelink Aqueduct, next to the female undead merchant. Firebombs, blossoms, talismans, prism stones, purging stones, rare ring of sacrifice, night leggings, and arrows of all kinds. May as well fill up. Now, time to fight in one of the most enclosed spaces possible. First attempt. Failed and ran away through the fog to heal. Second attempt. Failed and ran away through the fog to heal. Fuck this. I'm just gonna go for that item behind him since that's all I care about anyways. I juke him in this little alcove at the bottom of the Berg stairs, but I get smote by the 50 Gwyns on the side walkway outside. And that puts me all the way back to the Great Hollow. Motherfucker. Let's get back to the parish. Right at me, preparing myself to take a chance running towards the Andre Fog, knowing I'll have to spend another 30 minutes going through the Great Hollow and clearing those parish Gwyns out if I die. It's either that or bashing my head against other walls, I suppose. I get pretty lucky here that Gwyn's kick doesn't throw me off the ledge, and the Gwyn behind him doesn't hit me either, and the Gwyn on the stairs does his jump attack and gets stuck. It lets me reach the path to the Andre Fog, which gives me the great gift of the Undead Asylum. Nice. Very nice. But also, another very close call here. The rest of the Iron Ring is just Black Sorcerer Boots and Great Heal Excerpt. Not what I expected after saying the randomizer loves to put crucial items here. From here, I could go forward and get the Big Pilgrim Key from Oscar, but that puts me in the line of fire of the Gwyn on the stairs, which I'd rather not unless absolutely necessary. Instead, I jump to the closest fog gate, which sets me on a 1v1 with the Seath Gwyn. Pretty simple fight here. The Black Knight Shield makes it low risk, and I kill him with not too much effort. He gives me the Mystery Key on death. Absolutely useless. Hopping back to the fog, since I have no other way to go, I run down the stairs and open the shortcut so I can get back here if I die. Then I kill Oscar and get the Big Pilgrim Key plus F2 West Key, the latter of which is useless since I already have my items, and then I sit at the bonfire. I get 5 levels of endurance and go to the crow to take liftoff. Once I sit in the nest, it outputs me in the ONS fight against 2 Gwyns. Interesting. Well, because of my randomizer settings, I don't have to kill them to leave, so I go and check out the big fog gate first, which is Anorlando from the Duke's Archive side, which, as you can imagine, is blocked by Gwyns. I can't go down these stairs. So, let's go check the Smo Lift fog gate instead. It outputs us at the Firelink Shrine from the Crow's Nest. Only 1 layer removed from the Crow's Nest at the Asylum. Pretty neat. Of course, there's only one additional item that can be accessed from up here, which happens to be the freaking Lord Vessel. Fuck yeah. Teleportation unlocked. Well, only to certain spots, since this is Dark Souls 1, but nonetheless, it should be pretty useful as long as I make sure to light bonfires, even if I don't plan to sin at them. Of course, the next question after getting the Lord Vessel and being at a dead end is, where to next? Well, first, I upgrade my Estus with the Fire Creeper, I kill the Crestfallen Knight, and I return back to the Asylum with a Homeward Bone, which now happens to be updated since we left the Asylum and are coming back. First step from spawning at this bonfire, let's go check the paper doll to see if it has a crucial item. No, it's just the Sorcerer's Hat. Rather than fight the Stray Demon, I decide I'll hop through the fog just like I did in the ONS boss room, and it outputs me in New Londo. I make some progress going forward, but die to the first Gwyn in the baby house when trying to run away to cheese him. This time, rather than avoiding my problems, I decide to kill the Gwyn that replaced the Stray Demon, and he drops a humanity and a bone. Well, at least I don't have to deal with him anymore. Attempt number 2 at going through New Londo. Overall, pretty painless for this attempt. I destroyed this Gwyn's ankles, and I get the dingy robe he was guarding, and then above the seal I get the rusted iron ring. Then, I open the key to the seal, but this doesn't really open many options because the Valley of Drakes is already connected here via the shortcut, and there's a million Gwyns in that lower New Londo area. Now I start looting. I get the Guardian Gauntlets and the Mask of the Child, Beatrice's Catalyst, the Witch's Skirts, and Stone Gauntlets. I will definitely use the Mask of the Child. You cannot hate stamina regen. And then of course I die like a dumbass trying to go too fast through the area. Whatever, I'll climb the House of Horrors later. Let's go towards Ricket and loot shit on the way. The corpse pot is the Skull Lantern, and this corpse is Pine Charcoal Resin. But now, we are finally at a blacksmith. The first thing I do is I waste 500k souls on the Sorcerer's Catalyst for the meme, because for some reason he always has this item at this price in randomizer runs. I also buy his leather armor and painting guardian gloves, and then upgrade my Knight Halberd to +5, my Black Knight Shield to +5, my bow to +5, and the pieces of the giant armor I have to +5. This is a very substantial upgrade across the board, so any more Gwyn 1v1s we get into should be a breeze, and a general Gwyn grinding time reduction should be seen. The Valley of Drake corpse here has some item I can't pick up, and the item next to the elevator is Fire Whip. I then jump to the elevator fog, and nearly die at the Capra Demon boss fog entrance, and I managed to get lucky going back into it. Not going through there again. Then I proceed through the Valley of Drakes. No idea how the undead Dragon Gwyn dies, but he disappears after I turn around, and the items he was guarding were the Tower Shield, Stone Helm, Wolf Ring, and Maiden Robes. And then right afterwards I die because I got complacent with Dark Souls 1 cliff edges. Again. Now that we're back at the bonfire, let's deal with the ONS Gwyns. But I need to sate my curiosity first. What does Ugly the Crow have? Giving her purple moss clumps gives moonlight arrows, blooming purple gives goth great arrows, and blood gives demon titanite. As for the actual Gwyn fight, with our newfound upgrades, they die fast. The power of taking next to no damage with a fire-resist shield and putting out a ton with the Black Knight halberd is unbeatable. They give us a soul of a great hero, large magic ember, and humanity as a reward, but more importantly, they won't be annoying us anymore during traverse. Anyways, it's time for some premium grade cheese. I go back through the fog gate that leads me to the Duke's Archives entrance, and I slip my way through all the Gwyns to get to the bonfire, where I Alt F4 to reset their position. Upon loading back in, I slayed the Brassless Knightis, which kinda screws me because I can no longer light the bonfire. She also drops Sunlight Blade. I reset again and start baiting the Gwyns to jump down the elevator hole, obtaining the Black Knight Greatsword from whichever one replaced the Mimic. Once they've been dealt with, the chest outputs Sanctus and the Fang Boar Helm, and I go to check on the next fog gate, which happens to be the one at the bottom of the elevator, since the one that travels back to Sens is likely death if I come back through. This puts me in the princess's chamber area. Nice. She could give us something good. 1 endurance level, and then I say hi. She does not give us something good, however, granting only traveling gloves. And her covenant gives the Pure Shield and Bloodbite Ring. You get a knife to the chest for that one. This is great, because all the Gwyns get replaced by humanoids that can't be randomized into Gwyns, meaning I should be able to freely traverse Orlando now. The Live for Ornstein outputs me in the Sanctuary Gwyn boss fight, and we see those upgrades from the blacksmith go ham again. 3 humanities are my reward. The boss fog after that is the Artorias Gwyn, which goes the same as the last one, granting us the basement key. This gives access to the fog gate at the bottom of the big ladder next to Solaire, and there might be something important through it. The other side of the Artorias boss fog is the shortcut to the second Bell of Awakening. Unfortunately, there is not a shortcut elevator here yet, probably because the Gwyn Fire Sage isn't dead, but I'm perfectly fine with dealing with another Gwyn. Unfortunately, however, this will be a one-way drop, but there is 2 fog gates to check at the bottom. And he's dead. Humanity and nothing else is our reward yet again. First fog gate I checked after him is the Gargoyles boss fight. Well, I'll choose to continue my boss rush after checking what the other side is. And it's the Centipede Gwyn. Looks like the illusion of choice was real. The boss rush continues and Gwyn gets reaction parried like a bitch. He's so distraught he commits Lopicide. Great heal excerpt and some mushrooms are my reward, and the item in the boss room is something I can't pick up again. There's also something he dropped that I can't pick up, but let's just go hop through the next gate. Sanctuary Garden. Let's go see what the mushroom lady has. Gold pine resin, blood moss, some various chunks, demon's great hammer, and waste cloth of the Chandlers. Good place to rest too and level up before proceeding forward. I put another point into endurance for the carry weight. Let's go check the far side of this area, shall we? Moonlight Gwyn. Man, it really does have a bias for putting all the boss fights in a row, doesn't it? Same old story though. Hammer of Amos and Seek Guidance are the reward. Despite the bias for bosses, outside of the basement key, they haven't really given me shit. Going through this fog puts me at the end of this island and crashes me, so I won't be going through that way either. Also, when I load back into the game, it wrong warps me, but it's just outside Andre's fog gate, so that's kinda useless. Well, let's go kill them gargoyles, shall we? I teleport back to the princess, but forgot 2 Sanctuary Guardians spawn when you come back, and I get taxed some HP. Also, shortcut elevators here, so I take a quick detour and set my spawn at the princess bonfire. When it comes to the gargoyle fight, this ain't my first 2v1 rodeo, and in this one, the ganker doesn't come until half HP. He does come out of the gate with some serious intent, though. They almost get me a couple times, but with enough patience and turtling, they're gone. The reward is twin humanities. On the other side of this fog gate is Andre. Although I only really needed his services to upgrade my bow, which I don't use that much, I also get a chance to check for some of his items. These items are Soul Sif, Humanity, Green Blossoms, Charcoal Pine Resin, Purple Moss Clumps, Large Tit Shards, and Blue Chunks. I fill up on souls, and I give him the Large Ember, allowing me to upgrade my bow to +10, which I do. I also give him the very large ember, but I don't upgrade my bow at this time. Then, I buy the other items he has, which are the Spike Shield, Leather Shield, Grant, Gold Tracer, Club, Knight Armor, Guardian armor, and 6-side channeler helm. Also, I buy 1 large titanite with the spare souls. The foggate after him goes to an elevator that hasn't been activated yet in the Artorias DLC, so let's go check the Sen's direction instead. This is the bottom of the Anorlando lift. The chest behind the Anorlando lift is Logan's Catalyst and the Thorlin Talisman, both of which are worse than my current casting implements. The Painting Guardians appear to still be Gwyns, but at least the ones in the rafters deal with themselves. They also appear to have knocked the chandelier down, which is mostly what I came over to do. I go through the fog gate here, even though I know it goes to the Darkroot Basin, and I bone home and return to the asylum. Back to New Londo. First step, the baby house. I kill all the Gwyns, but 1, and then I rush Mr. Sealkeeper. He tells me I'm stupid for not having the Covenant Ring, and I buy a stone armor. Down below, the Gwyn is guarding a repair box, and I decide to go check the Blighttown direction. It puts me at the top of the Hydra ladder. Not great, I'm going back to the Valley of Drakes. And a shitter death awaits. Fuck this, I'm going to use the basement key. By the way, I have to go all the way back to the Tomb of the Giants and progress the normal way if I want to get to the basement ladder without dying. It's pretty shit. Anyways, the bottom of the basement ladder actually puts us on the other side of the same fog gate, which means I get access to the shortcut door up ahead. I die after opening it, but we teleport back to Firelink and work our way back to the shortcut. I make my way through and grind down the Gwyns in the lower Berg area, and I get to loot the items. The items obtained are the Obsidian Greatsword, Fall Control, and Witch's Hat. Jumping through this fog puts me in Blighttown, so I run back through, put on the Rusted Iron Ring, and try to make an attempt at running and looting. The item I jump down for is nothing, and I get smited shortly after. Let's go loot New Londo for the 4th time. First, I check the boss fog for the Four Kings, which is actually the giant blacksmith fog. He guards the chest with the dark ember inside, and he has blooming purple moss clumps, bones, transient curses, divine blessings, rotten pine resin, white chunks, great axe, arrows, leggings of thorns, and more large shards to fill up on. Unfortunately, the elevator lift does not work from this side until you move once, so no linkages yet for us. Item in front of the blacksmith is the Rapier and Sorcerer's Catalyst. The Black Knight arrow men are replaced by Gwyns, as are all the ones inside. Twin Humanities and another set of Heavy Soul arrow are what are on the left buttress, and the balcony fog gate puts us at the Sith boss fight entrance. Well, I've had training for how to kill Gwyns at this spot at a different time in history, although it is not as reliable due to differing geometry. Good thing less than aggro at once. Once they've all been dealt with, the first chest item is nothing, the second chest item is the Peculiar Doll. For joining the Forest Hunters Covenant, Alvina gives me the Mask of the Sealer, and I go to check the body at the bottom of the ladder. I get jump scared by a Gwyn falling down, but I also obtain a blue Titanite chunk and golem leggings. Hopping through the waterfall fog gate from this side, I end up in the Tomb of the Giants, and kill the Titanite Gwyn to get Twink and some chunks. The items before the boss fog is Twink and a Great Soul Arrow, and the other side is the first Bell of Awakening. Nice! If I ever find the Sen's entrance, it is open. Also, Oswald is here. I get Absolution for no reason, purchase his Eyes of Death, the S-Stock, the Guardian's Tail, the Sorcerer's Cloak, Chain Helm, Painting Guardian Robe, and Wanderer's Coat. I put out my Ring of Sacrifice, heal up, and jump back into the Tomb of the Giants to get the White Tit Slab replacement. It's something I can't pick up. I get 4 endurance levels from the souls after teleporting back to the bonfire. Back to New Londo, again. I make my way to the Valley of Drakes and manage to not die like a dumbass this time around, getting Golem Gauntlets and Acid Surge. The corpse on the bridge has the Black Iron Helm and Homeward spell, and the RTSR is Antiquated Gloves. I go up the elevator to the basin and sit at the bonfire to set my spawn, where I level up endurance 3 times. The fog gate at the other side of this hallway happens to be the Calamite boss fight, but Calamite has not been given his injections to turn him into an old man yet. We need Goth for that. The first item on the ground is nothing, the second item is throwing knives, and the third item is nothing. I quit out before Calamite's flames kill me, but unfortunately that does not respawn me where I was, but at the boss entrance. I want to loot that waterfall chest so bad. I do manage to get the chest open, but unfortunately I die before I can loot it. No matter, our spawn's right on the other side of the boss fog. This time, I get to it, and it's some armor I can't pick up. Great. Well, waiting inside the bottom of the elevator for all the Gwyns in the Valley of Drakes to die would suck, so I'm going back to the asylum. Let's go check where the route to Sens and Anorlando takes us. Ash Lake. Okay, well, there might be some goodies down here. Painting Guardian Waistcloth, Crescent Axe, Gravelord Sword Dance, and an item I can't pick up from the bodies. The Covenant with the Stone Dragon gives Priscilla's dagger, and his tail is a whip. Well, this place is cleared out. Where next? Let's do a random detour to see what Dom Hall has in Firelink. Throwing Knives, Bones, Soul of a Hero, Titanite Shards, Titanite Chunk, Remedy, Pursuers, Dark Silver Tracer, Leather Boots, Sunlight Maggot, Shadow Mask, Stone Leggings, Traveling Gloves, Silver Night Helm, and Gold Serpent Ring. I also finally loot this item, which is Dragon Slayer Arrows. I jump down to the Lord Vessel past my meat, which is not a randomized transition, and farm souls by killing the Ghost Gwyn's repeatedly by sitting at the Lord Vessel. I get to level 86 endurance from my farming. After that, I teleport back to Firelink and make my way over to Anor Londo again, and jump through the fog that brought us to the Gwendolyn's Covenant area before. With Gwendolyn dead, the statue is gone, and we can sit at the bonfire for a teleporter and get an item, which is Priscilla's Soul and Poison Bite Ring. Unfortunately, the tower still can't rotate yet. So, I go to Blighttown. I light this bonfire, but don't sit at it, and get to loot in the upper area. Katarina Gauntlets, Rubbish and Crystal Soul Spear, Uasil Ivory Catalyst, item I can't pick up, ×2, Divine Blessings and Ornstein's Armor, Guardian Tail, and Great Heal. That means the only way left is down. Here's 30 minutes of waiting, and here's death. Fucking hell. New Mambo number 5. The Firekeeper sold is 37 fire arrows and the leggings of Artorias, and then the items on this platform of the building are an item I can't pick up, the Blue Eye Orb, and the Dark Moon Covenant Ring. The fog gate opposite of the one I came in through is the Four Kings, but I don't have the Covenant of Artorias yet, so this is useless for now. I managed to not die to the Gwyns when I come back in, and I drop down to loot the large Ember chest. Lo and behold, it's a Bequeathed Lord Soul Shard. One more piece of the puzzle. We're almost done. The server is the other item on this weird walkway area, and I jump down to the fog gate, which takes me to Ceaseless Discharge. Killing him hardens the lava, and the items he was guarding were unpickupable, but that's some additional progress to go with our Lord Soul. 2 more endurance levels as well. Lower Blighttown time again. After lots and lots of waiting, I venture down into the swamp. The item below the drop is the Dragon Eye and Headstone on the way. I go all the way to the top and venture through the fog gate that normally leads to the Valley of Drakes, and it puts me in Sen's Fortress. The first corpse I check has hard leather boots and toxic mist. I get a Balder shield randomly as a reward and go to looting all the other items. This corpse has another Crescent Axe, the next hard leather armor, then Chester's leggings, then rubbish, then an item I can't pick up, and I jump to the fog gate that usually goes to Andre, and it puts me in the Pinwheel boss fight. The fight goes swimmingly, and it gives me a Lord Soul, and a bone, and a humanity. Nice. The bottomless box is also here. The fog gate on the other side of the Pinwheel boss fight is the Demon Ruins, and with the position of this fog gate, there is no chance of me making any progress here. There's far too many Gwyns in a procession with no good way of killing them. I get as far as I can doing a rush before dying of fall damage. New Londo time, again. I'm gonna loot the rest of the items in this area and then hop to the fog gate. Red Titanite Chunk, Mask of the Mother, Crystal Halberd, Gold Pine Resin, Heavy Boots and Undead Report, Elizabeth Mushrooms, Purple Moss Clumps, and then I get to the fog gate. The far side of this Combine portal is actually the Anor Londo lift access, which is pretty snazzy. This means we can check out the Painted World of Ariamis entrance, while also finally linking all of Anor Londo together. Plus, I get 96 endurance. In the Ariamis direction, the Chandelier Corpse is an item I can't pick up, and Tarkus is wearing Eastern Gauntlets. The painting entrance output is the Painted World of Ariamis Bridge. I am not interested in entering Ariamis from this direction, thank you very much. 1 more endurance level is gained from the souls on the way through though. Let's go check another fog gate in Sens. On my way there, I get 3 more Vit levels and 99 endurance. I check the Boulder fog gate here, which is the Crossbreed Priscilla fight. Alright. The Dragon Slayer Great Bow and the Uchigatana are my reward for killing the Fluff. Dropping off the bridge goes to the Seath cage, but unfortunately I am only able to light the bonfire before dying, so I will have to go and do the entire grind through Blighttown again just to sit at it and start progressing this direction. I'm gonna go check out the other foggate at Pinwheel instead. The other foggate near Pinwheel outputs us inside the Anne Orlando bedroom area, where, with the skip and some cheeky quitting out, I am able to rest and level up at the bonfire. I check the balcony foggate. It's Tomb of the Giants. I loot the Paladin helm before dying. I hate Tomb of the Giants. Let's go loot Hovel's room. Core of an Iron Golem and Crown of the Dark Sun, Red Sign Soapstone and Ornstein's leggings, Zweihander, and some twink. From random Gwyn drops, I get the Weaponsmith box and Uchi Katana, plus Stone Greatsword. This chest behind the Silver Knight has the cage key as well, which could be useful if we ever get access to the upper area of Sens. Back to the Seath cage, because I am not in the fucking mood to go through Tomb of the Giants. I sit at the bonfire this time, and with enough brute force, obtain the Archive Tower cell key. I reach the Ladder of Truth, and go loot this item above the bonfire, which is the Black Iron leggings. Unfortunately, there appears to be another recording gap here, because it cuts off and the next session has the gramophone disabled with me on the Ladder of Truth again. I don't recall anything valuable being looted down there, besides salvation from ear pain. Progressing forward, I do the tourney table roundy woundy and get to the Mimic Room, where I obtain the Caduceus round shield, crest key, white seance ring, broken pendant, and a titanate chunk. The crest key seems useful if we can find Goff, and I dare not open this shortcut. The Foggate here happens to go to Goff, so with the recently attained crest key, I can give Calamite his injections. It seems awfully coincidental to have them both back to back, so I'm going to go on my randomizer instincts and prioritize killing Gwyn. With a quick reaction time, I teleport back to the asylum, and I go to slay that damn dragon. I get an extra strength level. It's a pretty simple boss fight once the Crystal Lizard Gwyn has been dealt with, and Calamite does in fact give me a Lord Soul Shard. Well, we don't have to go back to the Seath cage and grind away at the archives, or any other tangent for that matter. Offering the Lord Vessel souls up, we get in, run past the Gwyns, and get into the boss fog, where we fight the one and the only, the true Gwyn. As you can imagine, with all the singular Gwyns I've killed before now, it is a total cakewalk, and I am freed from this hell. Thank God.